on this beautiful Thursday evening. It is Thursday, right?
Yep. Yeah, it's
Right
Thursday.
on. I really hope they caught the little bit of you yelling at the studio dog to cut it out. He is my favorite. We got a bunch of shit to talk about tonight. The first thing was the kid that was shot just a few blocks down from us.
Yeah.
I definitely want to kind of go over a little bit of the pipeline controversy happening. I don't know if I did a great job of kind of talking about the real issues at the heart of that last week, but we were kind of all over the place last week. And then to like my few dedicated followers, maybe I come off a little self-deprecating sometimes, and I hope that doesn't come across as like insulting to them. It's just I believe that I'm capable of a better product maybe than what currently is being put out there, and I'm just acknowledging that this isn't the best that we can do. We just want to keep getting better here. So yeah, I want to continue to be that self-deprecating guy. And we're going to continue to to yell at ourselves and kick ourselves in the asses until it's what we want to present to you guys. But for those of you who's starting this early, we definitely appreciate it. So yeah, the first thing tonight, Kevin, did you hear much about the shooting that happened literally like 4 blocks away from us last night?
So I did hear about it. I heard about it secondhand. Unfortunately, I was sort of in my own little world last night. I was doing some research for one of our Bad Dinner Guest podcasts, and so I wasn't tuned into the news or anything like that. So I actually heard about it this morning at work. I happened to sit next to 2 people who also live in our same neighborhood here in Columbus, and I was asked, Kevin, did you hear about the shootings last night? And my initial response was just, oh God, what now? And it was told to me initially when I heard about it this morning. I was told that an armed robber was shot dead by the police last night, and that was all that was told to me.
Okay.
So I came home today from work. I didn't know that. Long story short, I didn't know a 13-year-old had been shot until you brought it to my attention when we were preparing to get the episode ready tonight. So it came as sort of a shock to me because I remember saying to you, well, I thought it was a robbery suspect. And you're like, yeah, that is also true.
It definitely was. He was definitely a suspect in a robbery. It looks like we were reading the news article when we were talking about it. It looks like somebody called the police and then the person that was robbed. When I first heard about it today, I heard it was a nun that was robbed. And I was like, holy shit, that's awful. But, young black kid. They probably made it sound as bad as they can. And there is, like, a couple Catholic things right around here and the Red Cross and shit like that. So it's not that hard to believe that happened. But the article said that it was a guy that got robbed. And he came up and talked on the phone and told him what happened. And then the police show up. And then they find the 2, or it was the kid that was allegedly the thief and then 2 of his friends.
Yes.
In a back alley. And the police pull up, and the 2 friends run, and supposedly Tyre.
I believe it's Tyre.
Yeah, we're gonna go with Tyre. Mr. King, who's a 13-year-old kid, apparently pulls out a BB gun and points it at the cops. And then the cops pull the trigger several times. I think it was actually one officer pulls the trigger several times, striking the kid several times. And then he goes to Children's Hospital. How shitty must it be to be those nurses that gets a kid in there with multiple bullet wounds from an officer, and it's your job to try and save this kid's life now? What a terrible... Like, I don't really feel like the cop necessarily is going to feel bad at the end of the day. I never buy that story so much. I feel bad for that nurse that had to deal with that.
Yeah, absolutely. We like to complain here about our shitty day jobs, but could you imagine going in? She signed up. The nurses, doctors, they signed up to help children, but I don't think you would ever imagine in that capacity. Granted, we live in a big city. Unfortunately, things do happen to children. They are occasionally involved in gun violence, but this exact scenario would feel like a nightmare, I would imagine.
Yeah, that's all that I could think there. Again, I always find it hard to sympathize with the police, but in this situation, you're sending that package down the road, and somebody else is going to have to carry that with them. Seeing that, did the kid think it was a real gun? I shouldn't say I never. For a very long time, if the police gave us a story, I bought it for a very long time. But over the last 4 or 5 years, not so much. I've just seen them do shit. I've heard too much shit, and now there's enough videos out there. I don't abide the official narrative ever anymore from the get-go. I'll hear their side of it, but I never just assume that it's accurate. If you have a BB gun, you don't point it at somebody that you know have real guns. And kids in these neighborhoods around us are taught, like, definitely don't point a gun at the cops. Like, kids in these neighborhoods are taught from a really young age, like, the police will kill you. And, I have friends that were taught that before they were taught about the birds and the bees from a very young age. So I don't buy necessarily that he pulled out the BB gun. Even though it does look, I mean, did you saw the video? Or I guess if not, here's a picture of it on our screen. You guys can Google it if you want to. But a picture of the gun that he supposedly pulled out, and it does look like a standard handgun.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, you know this from some of the film stuff that we do. I have a prop gun that looks exactly like a nickel-plated Beretta, except for the little orange dot on the front of it that covers the muzzle there. So, but granted, if it were dark enough or under the right angle, it looks real. I mean, the point for some of these BB guns is usually to make them look and feel a little bit more real, because a lot of people use it as sort of their gateway into owning a firearm or working with a pistol. You know, or there are people like me that have these BB guns, because we have a stash of little BB guns that we use as prop guns for movies, because I work with people who refuse to have any real weapons on set. So the best we are allowed to do really is to play with BB guns. But even then, in that sense, we have to notify the police beforehand if we're going to be playing with BB guns out in the street.
Which is incredible.
There were actually
open carry's legal, and you have to inform them that you're going to have BB guns.
Yeah, so a little. This doesn't necessarily. I mean, this kind of relates to this. So we were in the 48-hour film festival last year, and there was a big warning let out across to all the teams participating that to make sure that they alerted the Columbus police before using any guns, and that they actually went so far as to suggest that we not do it at all, because the way the 48-hour film festival works is it's a bunch of city. It takes all summer. It's not just a one-time thing. It starts out west and it moves east, and they just hit a bunch of cities, and it's a weekend project. And at that point, there had already been 4 different groups of people that were arrested and charged for playing with BB guns out in the street with a camera crew. So again, well, I bring that up because something BB guns are It's a little ridiculous that you should have to let people know.
Yeah.
But that's the world that we're living in now, where you can't have an airsoft gun out in the city, or you're gonna get shot down, potentially. And so, I don't really buy it either. That I can't understand. I don't care if this is the most badass 13-year-old fuck the police kid in the world. He knows he's holding a BB gun, right? So what's he gonna do? Shoot someone's eye out?
And I pulled up the picture there for anybody. We have 2 people watching live right now. What's up? But for anybody that comes back and looks at the YouTube video later, I pulled up a picture of the actual post from the Columbus Police Department, and they show a replica of the gun found on the scene. Now, you were talking about the orange tip on the end of that gun there. Is that why they're only showing us a replica? Is it really obvious because there's an orange tip on the end of this gun that it wasn't a real gun? Did it never leave the kid's waistband? Is that why they didn't see the orange tip? Like, I don't buy the official story here. And you look at when there was Tamir Rice in Cleveland. I'm just going to go ahead and show the video here on the Guardian's website. But, you look at how they handle Tamir Rice. So Tamir Rice was in Cleveland. I can't remember like 2 years ago or so. Hopefully this video starts playing. I might have just done fucked everything up. Okay. There we go. But it happened in Cleveland. Boom. And so this kid's out front of like a park pavilion. Just you know what a park pavilion looks like.
If not, you're about to see one.
Yeah, well, we have people that only listen to the audio. So this kid's out in front of this pavilion, and he's pointing his little BB gun at shit, thinking he's a little gangster badass. And I don't think there was any reports that he actually shot the BB gun at anybody like that. But on the 911 call or whatever, they even say it looks like a BB gun. It's just a kid. He's not threatening anybody, that kind of shit there. And you can clearly see on the video, he's not really looking for trouble. He's just kicking the shit, like just playing with his toy gun. You know what I mean? He's not even looking for trouble, it doesn't look like. Like, he's not looking for cars. It was 10 minutes passed by of him in front of this pavilion with this toy gun, sitting on the benches. He's probably waiting on his friends, waiting on his mom to pick him up. I don't really know exactly what he was doing there. But if he was out looking for trouble, he would not be sitting at this pavilion like we're watching him for 10 fucking minutes.
Yeah, if you're looking for trouble, you're not hanging out on the sidewalk kicking
Yeah.
rocks.
So here we see the cop car pull up real quick. Before they even get out, the kid has been shot and hits the ground. They pull their police cruiser up within probably 4 feet of the pavilion. So there's the pavilion. 2 feet away from the pavilion is Tamir Rice. And then 2 feet away from that is the side of this police cruiser that they get out of shooting.
In between the pavilion and the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Also, man, just drove right up straight through into the yard, as if this were a do or die, life or death situation.
Yeah. If that camera wasn't there and caught them, do you think that they would say that he pointed the gun at them? Do you think they would say that he pointed the gun at them and then they pulled their cruiser up in the dirt like that? That kid didn't even have time to react. They didn't flash their lights. They didn't yell out their speaker, police, drop your weapon, nothing like that. They pulled up and assassinate this fucking kid in Cleveland. I mean, this happened down the street from us. That happened just 80 miles down the road.
And what I will say, I agree with you that if this weren't on tape, the probability would be probably 95% that it would have been reported that he drew the gun, because whether we want to look at it however you want to look at it, the police it's a corporation. Like they have money, they have employees they have to pay. They're going to cover their own ass. They will do what they have to do to make it look like they were as in the right as physically possible when given the opportunity. Because look at what has happened. You know, you can look at little instances over time with Rodney King, stuff like that. Like, they know what happens when they get caught with their pants down. So they're not going to just openly say, oh, hey, yeah, guys, we fucked up here. There's going to have to be proof that they fucked up in order. And even then,
we need to come back to that because I want to tell you about getting pulled over and the police not copping out to when they fuck up. But go on.
Well, I was just going to say, even then, when they do get caught, it's still sort of, I mean, you see these cops that they defend it as best as they can. So even when they're caught with their pants down, they still attempt to find ways to justify what is done. So yeah, I agree that if there were a camera around here in Columbus that would have caught the action, it probably didn't go down 100% the way the official story goes.
No. I was walking down. I got dropped off at the BP just down the street last night at about 9 o'clock, maybe a quarter after 9, and walked back toward the house. And I see where they had the roads blocked off, and I keep trying to walk around where they have it was probably 8 blocks they had blocked off. And finally I make it up and around some shit and find there's 2 security guards just shooting the shit. And I'm like, hey guys, like, what happened? They're like, there's a shooting. I'm like, did they shoot up the entire neighborhood? They literally had at least 8 full city blocks closed off. And then right where the security guards were was where the paddy wagon was, and I saw the cops talking to the other 2 kids in the back of the big van. I didn't see the kids in it, but they were definitely in that. So I wonder what the kids witnessed. I kind of wonder the reason they're not getting charges pressed is because they're going to keep their fucking mouth shut. It makes me wonder. But again,
that is worth mentioning that the other were at least one other suspect was just simply released.
Yeah.
Or just simply released later that night. So yeah, that who knows why that is. And yeah, I see you have another video playing here.
Oh yeah, well it's going to take a little while but this one here is just another reason again why I don't buy the narrative. This is literally, you can see this man running from the police unarmed, getting shot in the back multiple times by a police officer who didn't know he was being filmed. If I'm not mistaken, he casually walks up to the suspect and tries to basically place some shit on the scene. Police officer's life is in danger. But I'm just gonna kill this audio for the audio listener. Again, this is just why, because the police at the end of the day defended both of these shootings to the bitter end. So you could instantly, by doing that, when we have he handcuffs the guy he just shot to death. But yeah, when
that is protocol, actually.
I know, and and then he runs away. But what was I saying? This is the reason I don't buy the narrative, because we see you fuck up and then you don't own the fuck up, and then your cohorts, your friends, they also defend you. So you lose all credibility. Maybe if we didn't see shit like this happen, maybe then I would be like, yeah, that kid probably pulled out that BB gun. But and then at the end of the day, once they get done lying and everything, there's no convictions for that, just like Hillary Clinton. They can put whatever they want out there, and then the media be like, oh, actually, we have a video of this, and this happened. They'd be like, oh, we need to see the video because we don't know what you're talking about. And then the video shows them being crooked-ass pigs. And then they're like, well, we fucked up. This is the settlement that the taxpayer is going to pay. It's never money out of the pension fund. They don't have to pay for their own insurance. This is all money that the taxpayer has to pay for the crimes that they commit. So they're completely invulnerable. And that's why I don't trust them. I'm right there with that football player. I can't get behind that kind of behavior. So literally last night, I install satellites all over the state, and I have a guy that drives me around. Um, so we're up in I think it's Cary, Ohio, and we come to the front of this town. Mind you, we don't really know exactly where we're at wherever we go because we're not from around anywhere we're at. We're installing all over the state. So we get to the beginning of this town and we pull into a gas station to get gas. And as we're getting gas, we see a city cop, a Cary City police officer, across the way from us. And he's in a business parking lot, and he like pulls out at the front of the parking lot, and you see him like watch us. And then he circles around the parking lot once. I have no fucking idea why. Then he comes out of the parking lot. He pulls down the road. He goes down the road for a couple minutes. We're filling up a gas tank and like getting snacks and stuff. We're getting back in the van, and he comes back down the road, circles around the business that he was circling again before, and then goes down the road a little ways. So we pull out of the gas station. We hadn't done anything wrong. We pull out of the gas station, start going down through this main drag that goes through this town. And next thing we know, a police officer, that same police officer we saw twice, there's a semi directly behind us at this point. That police officer was now pulled in like a little pull off. He sees us, that truck, he pulls out behind that truck. My driver's manning the GPS and the wheel, and he has the GPS taking us to just basically the town center. He didn't realize that the GPS didn't pick up the road name and the house number, and when that doesn't happen, the GPS automatically just takes you to the city center. So he literally pulls us into the city center of this downtown, and I'm like, Rico, we know we've been to this house before. We know this is not the house. Like, what are you doing? And he parks on the street where there's just like street parking in downtown while we figure out the GPS and stuff like that. And next thing we know, right behind us on the corner that we just parked on comes that police officer was following us right behind that semi, going too fast to like not make a scene and like pull a Yui and pull us over. We're parked. What's he going to pull us over for anyway? So we're like, well, that was fucking weird. So we get shit figured out on the GPS, and the police officer in the semi crossed some train tracks right before a train had started crossing. So literally they cross over, the bars go down, me and Rico pull out of our parking spot. Looks a little sketchy. Again, there was no crime committed. So we get heading on a route that it still took us out this main road, go over those train tracks, what have you. There's a couple cars behind us. Next thing you know, like a bat out of hell, we see police lights and the behind us literally go around 3 cars, makes the 3 cars get off the road on double yellow lines, comes around them, and pulls us over for loud exhaust. So he put 3 people off the road, sped God knows how much to pull us over for loud exhaust. So he comes up to the van, and he's like, I pulled you over because loud exhaust, and your license plate isn't displayed properly. He's like, oh yeah, we need to get that pipe fixed. The tail light's got a loose connection. We've been trying to figure out how to fix it. I was just like, that's fine, we'll get taken care of that. Ask for license, registration, all that stuff. Runs all that, comes back up to the car, and he's like, so I have the drug dog officer on his way. While I'm finishing up, he's going to come here, and while I'm finishing up, he's going to walk the dog around your car. Do you have any objection to me searching your van right now, or you guys right now? And I generally, when we get pulled over at this point, because we've been pulled over like 6 times the last month, and I have so much contempt for police, like, the only thing I can do is just keep my mouth shut. Because I don't know about you people or you, but like when your fight or flight kicks in, like your body wants to do one or the other. And if you're not able to do one or the other, your body like shakes, or you get kind of like that thing there. It's because like you're literally like forcing your body not to do what it is like evolved to do in that situation. You were being kidnapped, essentially. You're being held against your will for no crime. There was no injured party. So yeah, he brings a drug dog around. I told him, yeah, we had an issue with him searching us. Like, I got to get to my fucking customer. It's 8:45 at night right now. So he's like, well, we're going to bring the dog around. There was no drugs in the van, so I didn't think the dog was going to hit. So he brings the dog around the vehicle or whatever. He taps, after he brings it on the passenger side, he walks around the front of the van to the front driver's side. He basically taps the front fender when the dog then barks. He continues around the front of the van, and then he tells his partner that the dog hit on the passenger side. A little weird to me. I don't speak dog, but generally where it barks is where I think you would say the drugs were. I don't know. Maybe they like telecommunicated on my side of the van. So he has me step out of the car, tells me I'm not being arrested, but he is going to search me. I don't have a fucking law degree. I don't know exactly what they're allowed to do. So I was like, fuck it, search me. Pats me down, checks my shoes, doesn't find any drugs, put me in the back of the car. Then they pat down Rico, find out he doesn't have any drugs. So then they start searching. 35 minutes later, they're still searching my van. They can't get the back door open. They come to me. Can you open the back door of your van? What, you big buff motherfuckers can't open the door? Like, are you going to open the door or are we going to have to break it open? Fine, I'll open the door. So I walk over, like, two like finger opening the door. It was literally because of just how the hinges are. It's just on a little tilt, so you just got to kind of push in the right place. Just two finger open it. And I was just like turn around and start walking back to the cruiser before like he had even like made it to me, because they act like they're constantly in danger from you, even though you've been patted down 4 times. But so I'm like, hey man, can I get my phone so I can call my customer? No, it's a danger to me. I'm not giving you your phone. In the back of the same cruiser that I'm in, Rico is with his phone. So explain that to me. So they continue to search the van for probably another 10 or 15 minutes. Finally, they give up and decide there's no drugs in the van. And they come back and get us, and they scold me that I should clean my van out, and maybe it wouldn't take so long for them to search it. And that's where I lost my shit. They were like, so why are you nervous right now? And I was like, you want to know why I'm nervous right now? Because I'm not nervous right now. I'm fucking pissed, but you have a badge and a gun that keeps me from acting on it. I was like, there's no fucking, like, this is completely criminal, your actions here. Like, literally, I know it's your job to, like, stop me from doing my job, but I'm not going to respect that. I'm not okay with that. And he starts yelling at me, and he's like, I know you don't care what I have to say. And I'm like, then why are you saying it? Like, why are you wasting more of my time right now? And I'm getting out, and I'm trying to get him to just give me my ID and, like, send us down the road. And the entire time he's lecturing me and shit like that. Like, you know how they do. Even though he didn't find any drugs and he wasn't citing us for any of the reasons he pulled us over because they were bullshit, he just wanted to search the vehicle for drugs. He's still trying to lecture me on how to live my life better. So I'm like, dude, just shut the fuck up and get a job. As I'm like, I'm right by the van at this point. He's like, excuse me? And like, I keep walking to the van. He's like, stop. And I'm like, am I under arrest? And he's like, no. And I'm like, am I being detained? He's like, right now, yes. And I was like, well, then I said, shut the fuck up and get a job. And he's like, you get the fuck out of here before you get a disorderly conduct. And I was like, who am I being disorderly to walking to my van like I was ordered to do until you told me to stop walking to my van? You're wearing a body camera right now. And he's like, get the fuck out of here right now. So I start to get in my van, and that's when I see my dashboard is completely torn out of the van. There's a broken cable spool. It was pretty messy to begin with, don't get me wrong. Now it's completely flipped on the inside. So I get back out. I get back out of the van, and I start walking up to the cruiser, and of course, like, he's getting in the driver's side, which is parked beside the road. So I walk out in the road a little bit, and I'm like, yo, hold the fuck up. Who do I need to call about the damage you guys did to my van? And he's like, you need to get the fuck back in your van right now. I was like, I need to know if I need to get a sergeant down here or who I can call to get some pictures taken of this shit to get it taken care of. You guys destroyed my van for drugs you didn't find. He's like, there's nothing you can do about it. And like at this point where he's walking me back to my van, we're right by my van. And he's like, there's nothing you can do about it. Like, I could search this thing, strip this thing down to the bolts right now if I wanted to. I was like, I'm glad you can abuse the law to that level. He's like, it's not abuse of the law. And I was like, well, then you tell me what it is. Do you want to tear my part down to the bolts right now? Because if I have to sit through that and wait, I will. But this is fucking retarded. And again, he just wanted to lecture me. He kept threatening to give me disorderly conduct, but every time I'd walk away, he'd stop me. I'm like, what are you going to do? So we get back in the van, and we go to our customer's house, and the customer had a police scanner. And I called the customer as soon as we started getting pulled over. I was like, yo, we're getting pulled over. Don't know how long this is going to take, but we're still on our way to you. So he's listening to everything happen on his police scanner at his house. He's listening to our van get pulled apart and search for drugs, all running our records, all that stuff. There we get there. He's like, so did you get pulled over? I was like, yeah. He's like, Cary police? I'm like, yeah. He's like, yeah, I heard on the scanner. They did the same shit to me 3 months ago. They searched you, huh? And I was like, yeah. He's like, would you believe they searched me? I was like, I mean, they searched us. So yeah, he's like, I'm a pastor. He's like, they know me as a pastor. He had pastor license plates, all this, like, the parishioner, like, tag in his rearview window. He's like, yeah, it's not just because you're from out of town. They're doing it to everybody right now. They need the money. They literally did the exact same thing that they did to me and my driver, did this pastor, like, 2 months prior. tore his fucking van apart or car all apart looking for drugs. He never even had a drug record. He goes on to tell me that his fucking niece was pulled over earlier this year, like just after winter, like early spring, by the same police department. She was with her baby. They took her out of the car, claimed she had drugs in it. They pull out the headboard, they pull apart the dashboard, tear apart the steering column looking for drugs. They literally strip searched this lady on the side of the road. And then when they're all said and done, they don't find drugs. She's like, so what do I do about my tore up car? Not to mention the fact that she's basically just molested, in my opinion. Yeah, what do I do about my car? Oh, nothing, not our problem. Bye. So, like, but you want me to take your word for this bullshit. I know I got completely off the rails there. But when I literally, and these are all white people. These are all fucking white people. I get the Black Lives Matter movement, but you're completely missing the mark when you when you throw out the All Lives Matter, or that it's just police authoritarianism overall fucking with everybody's lives. This was a pastor, his niece, and then a cable guy, all fucked by the same police department this year. All of us, over the same drug war that you're getting killed over. Or in this case here, you know what? This kid was a crook. He robbed somebody. I don't think he deserves to die at 13. He made a stupid fucking decision. And again, I don't think he pulled the gun. I really don't. I know that was like completely like full circle around the fucking backwoods, and here we are.
It's not that it's irrelevant though. As someone who's run into these issues and seen situations, I had a situation where a couple of teenagers broke into my house, and the only thing that happened to them was the police officers took them. Now this was years ago. This was 5 or 6 years ago. I don't think it would happen this way now. But, and granted, and these kids didn't have weapons either. They didn't essentially, they didn't break into a house. One of my genius roommates back at the time had left the back door unlocked. And so all they did really was walk into our house. And then I was in the basement. I heard them call the cops, this, that, and the other. Long story short, these kids get taken home to their parents, which is probably what should happen when a 13-year-old does something like that. And they're now, especially with a BB gun, if you draw some physical, I don't believe in juvie hardly at all. There have to be a very, very, very extreme circumstance for me to believe that anyone who isn't old enough to vote or drive should be put in a jail cell, regardless of what you want to call it, juvenile detention. It's a fucking jail, okay? You're putting essentially babies into prison. And I don't think that's right. I don't think that what you're doing is you're building lifelong criminals in that scenario.
Yeah, essentially, you're getting them used to the institutionalization. You get them desensitized to it, really. It's worse than regular jail. So then they get out of that shit, and they're like, well, if I made it through that, I've already heard it's worse in there than it is regular jail. Because they treat them like fucking war criminals. You're not allowed to look at the guards. You're not allowed to speak out of turn. Yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. You don't look up. You don't talk to anybody. Like, it's a lot worse than regular jail. So these motherfuckers go through that shit, and they're already hardened criminals. Like, they already have that fucking mind state where they're like, this shit ain't gonna fuck with me. I go in, I do my time, I come back out, I pull out my BB gun. But, like, a 13-year-old, their mindset is just, I'm gonna scare this person into not fighting back. I don't think they think they're gonna kill anybody with that handgun. I really just think it's a way of them making sure that they don't get fought with in that robbery there. That's why the nun story made more sense to me. Now that I know it was another dude, it's kind of even scarier because that dude could have been concealed carry and shot the kid.
Right, and that's, you brought up something earlier that I did want to touch on before we change on this, and that was the width of the crime scene.
Yeah.
Which, an unfortunate side effect to living where we live is that people get shot around here a lot. Okay, the corner store that we frequent I have since I've been here for a little over a year, at least 2 people have been shot within 10 feet of the corner store.
Yeah, there's a constant memorial there. They just change out the name and leave the candles.
It is sad. Yeah, and that is true. I know that sounds like a joke, maybe not the most tasteful joke.
It's not a joke. It's 100% legit.
But he is being sincere with you right now. That is the same memorial has been up for months now. And the last time that I was walking past this corner store and there had been a shooting, maybe I would say a 3-house width. I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to know what the radius of that would be. But so start at the end of the road and move down 3 houses. So about a half a block was marked off for that murder. Now that was citizen on citizen. So the idea to me when I hear, oh, a cop shot a kid, and then there's this freaking 20-block radius crime scene that no one else is allowed to be in, that tells me, in my mind, that that's because things aren't as they seem, and they're keeping as many eyes away from it as possible, because when a normal Joe dies, they don't take half the city over. And they block off as little. They try to make it as they block out the crime scene, but they try to not get in everybody's way. Where in this scenario, you're not the only person that told me this. The same person that mentioned the shooting to me, the reason it was brought up, they were essentially complaining because they couldn't get to the bar that they wanted to go to.
Okay.
And that they had to drive all the way around Kingdom Come. And this was on the opposite side. You're talking about Broad Street. This person is talking about 3 blocks down
Let's
on a
hone
different
them right
spot.
into our address.
So this is that was another odd thing about this that leads me to believe that we aren't getting the whole story. We'll never get the whole story. We've never, in my experience since I've been alive, I don't think I've ever gotten the whole story as an official story. And I think that's the precedent we will continue to see, not that we should continue to see, but you should keep it in mind when you're receiving these stories. That obviously it's like when you're at work. Anybody who works for a corporate entity knows that there are moments where you aren't allowed to talk about things. Plenty of people listening to this will have a job where they go home, they're not supposed to tell, you're not supposed to tell people about what you do. You know what I mean? You're supposed to protect the company's interest because you're working for them. And so for us to think that wouldn't happen with the police, that the police are going to be transparent at this point, is an extremely naive thought. And that is the advice, I guess, that I want to give towards this story and all stories going forward, is just keep in mind they're never going to incriminate themselves the way that they make us incriminate ourselves with the way that they ask the questions that they ask.
Oh, yeah, no.
They're pros.
No.
They're pros at not making themselves look guilty and at making other people look guilty. So why would we think that they're giving us the honest truth? Why would they need to?
Exactly, yeah. I'd have, and at the same time, they're completely allowed to lie to you about the law frivolously. They literally, in front of me, we had 2 weeks ago when we got pulled over, the officer told my driver that he only had to have one ear uncovered with his headphones to be legal, which we already knew. This stop here, the officer's like, you're not allowed to wear headphones when you're driving. Again, you're allowed to have one ear with a headphone on it. To which, before my driver could even say anything, I was like, it's completely legal. Like, you need to study your shit. Like, he's allowed to have it. And he's like, well, I can't tell if he has a ear uncovered or not. I was like, that is the burden of evidence isn't on us, and you're not allowed to stop us just because you're unable to see it. Like, if you can't prove it, that's your problem. But if you can prove that the police did something wrong, it's still your problem. Like, it's so ass backward. The people that are supposed to be the thing we look to be that beacon of what law and justice and order looks like. I would challenge any of our 2 current live viewers to tell me 3 differences between the current police departments and the mafia. 3 differences. If you can give me 3, I'll completely rethink everything that I'm saying. But I can't name anything that really separates them from the mafia of days past or of today, except that they're larger and have legitimacy for their violence. And I wouldn't call those positive differences. Yeah, I don't. How many young Negro children died at the hands of the mafia?
Well, I'm not sure. I mean, yeah, the mafia, that was supposed to be one of their rules, No women, no kids, but that didn't play out so well either. But
Yeah, I have been watching some Narcos, but so did you want to talk a little bit about the health? I feel like you watch more about Hillary's health than I have, 'cause you get into that conspiracy stuff a little more than me. So I was kind of hoping maybe you had. Because I see it all as fluff. I just see it as them filling the 24-hour news day, and if it's not that, then it's a distraction. But it looked like there was maybe she had a body double, some other crazy shit. Do you know anything about any of this?
I know a little bit about it, and I will start by saying that I agree with you. I believe that a lot of it is fluff, a lot of it is a distraction. But that's part of why that anyone who's listened to us consistently now would probably know that much about me. That's why at times I have a hard time even discussing certain topics because all I want to do is scream, "This is a show. This is Hollywood for ugly people."
These are bread and circus.
But this is your bread and circus right here. So when it comes to the Hillary thing, the thing that was interesting is conspiracy theorists have been saying for a long time, and maybe it was just because they were looking for a reason. At this point, any reason to get rid of Hillary in a lot of people's minds is a good reason. You want to use FBI emails, you want to use Benghazi, you want to use the fact that she's got Alzheimer's and she's dying, whatever. Just get her out, whatever it takes to discredit her to the point where she's not a viable candidate. So it didn't hold a lot of value or weight with me. It was interesting. I was listening to some podcasts, for instance, Ground Zero with Clyde Lewis, several days before this happened, and they were talking about the idea that all of a sudden a lot of articles had come out regarding our candidate's health and how it was an issue, and that because there is a rampant conspiracy theory that this election is going to be put on hold for one reason or another, and that Barack Obama is going to get a third term. I'm not again, guys, remember, when I mention these things to you, these are not my beliefs. I'm merely telling you about stuff that is out there. So I don't want to get yelled at later for saying that I think Barack Obama's a dictator. I'm keeping my personal opinion on the shelf here for now. I'm just telling you what has been speculated. So a week ago today, it was a batshit conspiracy theory that Hillary was sick and something was wrong with her. A week ago today, the chai tea thing, people were just making a big deal about it. But then she faints on national television at the 9/11 memorial, and then all of a sudden it's real enough to the point where now all of a sudden, yesterday at lunch, I'm watching live CNN breaking news in which Donald Trump is handing over his medical report to Dr. Oz.
Yeah.
So, okay, first of all, everyone just press pause for a second and think about that. Where the fuck are we right now? To where, like, it is a television spectacle to have a candidate show up with a piece of paper and present it to goddamn fucking Dr. Oz, who was a TV personality. Okay, yeah, he's a doctor, sure, whatever.
How is Oz just lost his show?
Didn't he lose his show about 8 days after saying something about Hillary being in bad health?
Yeah.
That seems a little odd.
Is he back now? Supposedly. Go on, I'm sorry.
He probably got his own show. Colin Cowherd was fired from ESPN for saying something racist and then was hired by Fox Sports like 3 days later. So he's probably just on a different channel somewhere. Whatever. So, first of all, I thought that was a little bit ridiculous. That first of all, I don't mind reading a report or hearing news report. It's live television of this is not like what happened. We did it on this show. We went and watched the first ever live presidential debate. Look at where politics used to be when it was almost a genuine thing, and look at this fucking horse and pony show you have now. Yeah. This is absurd. How do you people still buy into this? I'm sorry to get aggressive on you.
You people.
You people listening. I shouldn't get mad at you. You're at least trying. You people that don't ever listen to us, I'm mad at you. But
tell your friends we're mad at them.
Yeah, tell your friends we're pissed off. But so the other end of this that kind of has me scratching my head is it seems like Donald only ever has to prove himself on things that Hillary gets busted out on. Like, she gets in trouble.
Because they're both guilty of most of the same shit. He's just guilty of less shit, in my opinion.
Fair, and that is fair, and that should be noted. I am not. I also don't want my inbox blowing up about how I'm a Trump supporter. I'm not. I don't support any candidate because it's all a goddamn television show.
I just want mail. You can send me hate mail, love mail. I don't care, as long as it's not anthrax
or dick pics.
I mean, something. It's the start.
It's a start. So I do think that is interesting, though, that Hillary gets busted or not busted, or however the email thing really. I mean, did we ever even come to a conclusion on that? She did not lie. She just did not tell the truth. Okay, cool. We're good. I've seen all I need to see. Let's move on.
The conclusion was move on. I think that was the conclusion. Yeah, she did it. Yeah, we know she did it. No, we're not doing anything. Say bye.
There's nothing to see here. Repeat after me.
Bye.
I am free. So yeah, then all of a sudden, we've got tax evasion with Donald, and then the Clinton Foundation gets looked at as like, oh man, what's going on? This is a huge conflict of interest. And then all of a sudden, oh wait, well maybe we should look into the Trump Foundation as well. I'm not saying that this is possibly, I should not say probably, I don't have faith in the media any more than I have faith in the police. This is possibly just due diligence and people saying, oh well, hey, everybody wants to roast Hillary over the fire for this. Well, why don't we see what Donald's doing? I just think it seems to be an interesting trend that you don't see Donald getting busted first and then people trying to drag Hillary through the mud. It seems like at all cost, like especially CNN, the Clinton News Network, they just...
Funny you say that, because they seem to be really open-minded about third-party candidates, and they seem to be fairly critical of her every time I read them online. Now, I don't watch them live.
But whom do third-party candidates, who benefits? Cui bono from the third party? Is
a lot
that
of
going to help
people,
Donald
I've
out?
said it for a while, I think, if we have some listeners that can tell me I'm lying, so be it. But I think I've said for a while that I think that the third party takes away from Hillary more than Trump. And I still believe that. And if I said otherwise, then I apologize. I'm going back on it. But I really believe that the third party at the end of the day steals from Hillary more than Trump. And the reason I think that you see Trump not having to answer for anything prior to Hillary is, like I was saying, they have the same shit record. Hers is just longer and worse. So he says terrible shit. She's murdered children in Syria. You know what I mean? So, go on.
Oh, I was just going to say a little sidebar on that is that what Hillary has done, they're both terrible people. I can't like either of them. So again, I'm not blowing my trumpet here, but
Your trumpet.
yeah, Trump. Isn't it funny? Trumpence, Trumpence, Trumpets 2016. But Trump was never elected by anyone to take care of all of us or to make any decisions for our benefit. Yeah, he's a piece of shit, sleazy businessman. Nobody ever asked him to be anything other than that.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
to me, that's the key difference. Again, they're both bad. I would hate to live in a world where either of them are running my country, as much as an inevitable reality that may be.
Oh, yeah, boy, that's coming.
So is that, to me, I see Gary Johnson sort of as potentially, like these third-party candidates are almost like a soft-core version of Donald Trump, like where it's, you could steal from Donald Trump if you have people that want to follow him just because, they kind of maybe, I don't think he necessarily has an isolationist point of view by any means, but there are people that are siding with him because they want a strong border and they want all that stuff. So they may listen to our faux libertarian Gare Bear over there and be like, oh, well, the libertarians, like, they want to stay out of people's business. So, I don't have to support this crazy racist bigot. I can go over here to the Libertarian Party. And so I don't know. We won't know. The proof will be in the pudding on that one. We don't really know who he's stealing from, but I definitely feel that the only reason at this point that Gary and Jill Stein gets pub because she's batshit crazy, and I love her. Jill Stein, if you are listening, hit me up on the DM. I want to marry you. We can go tag shit together. I hate so I don't know. Wait. I don't hate socialists. But I do love a crazy broad. Everybody knows that.
Feminist socialist chicks are the best in bed, I can tell you. I heard it from a friend, I mean. But no, I don't buy. Again, the Clinton being completely in good health is kind of the real point of the entire media blitz here on the subject altogether, is them now saying that Clinton's health papers came out and she's in the clear, because Trump's health was never really in question. Yeah, he's obese, but most of America's obese. They really don't even know that like that level of obesity is linked to that many health disorders. But there's always been a question, or for a very long time been a question, to her health, and now the story is it's pneumonia, she's fine. They've been able to get doctors to say people are fine forever. They've also been able to get doctors to say that cancer or cigarettes made you hardier. I mean, Michael Jackson was able to get prescribed drugs that eventually killed him. It's not hard to buy a doctor off.
Same with Prince.
Yeah.
And it's really not. I mean, you can go down to a local. This level of corruption starts at the bottom. It could be a high school football player that really needs to play in the big game on Saturday. I have seen doctors lie over stuff like that. I myself got a doctor to sign off to allow me to play my last game ever of high school football, even though I had a broken wrist and I had a cast and I was not cleared to play. But I told him simply, Doc, as a kid, I begged him, and he went ahead and signed it. And I was a nobody from nowhere that just wanted to play his last football game. So, it's not a stretch to think that everybody has a price at this point. And if you don't think so, you're lying to yourself, even about yourself, because I bet you probably have a price too. You just haven't seen it yet.
Should I do it? I don't care.
At the end of the day, sadly, we all have the capability of being corrupted. So for us to think that the rest of the world views things from our moral compass is incorrect. Also, we should maybe make sure that our moral compass actually represents who we are and what we do. That's another topic for another time. But yeah, I don't buy into this whole thing. She could have just been using her everyday doctor that she's had since she was a kid in Arkansas. Who knows?
Yeah.
So the health thing is very, and again, it's maybe it's just another red herring. Whenever you see these big stories, it's like, well, what is not getting put in the news? For every Colin Kaepernick, there's $6.5 trillion missing that no one hears about.
Yeah, and they still really aren't talking about that a whole lot, are they?
No, for every gay marriage vote, there's Monsanto getting slipped under the door.
And I wanted, we're not going to get to it tonight because we gotta wrap this thing up here. We both have early starts tomorrow, unfortunately. But I did want to talk about toss around some North Korea, like kind of more just writing fiction with what we think would happen, or what I would think would happen if we were libertarian tomorrow, how we would deal with North Korea, if like our government was, I should say. But I wanted to kick that around a little bit tomorrow. But what's pops up in the news every fucking election cycle is immigration, and it's only during the election cycle that you seem to hear about immigration. But I don't think we can cover it in the amount of time we have left tonight. So maybe we could dive into both of those tomorrow if we have time. That would be awesome. I'll be in a better mood. It's payday. So, but yeah, just unusually early day tomorrow. So I hate to cut these off early, but we're getting pretty close to it. Was there anything you wanted to talk about? I kind of want to get into the pipeline too.
I really think we need to just go ahead and commit to it and just say we're going to do a part 2 of this episode tomorrow, because I also, what hasn't been discussed at all yet, something that I want to discuss with you and with our listeners, is the veto of the JASTA bill.
Yeah.
And that whole the way that's playing out, as well as the fact that maybe a lot of people, you may or may not know, that our national state of emergency has been extended for the 16th year in regards to 9/11. And normally it's usually done right around, because it was signed on September 14th, 2001, and this time President Obama went ahead and got it done a little bit early. I think with the idea being that a lot of people are going to pay attention.
I hate to cut you off, but you keep saying the JASTA Act. That is the act that keeps us from suing outside governments, right? You're talking about the Freedom Act or whatever that is, right?
What was it? It stood for justice.
Yeah, that's not 14 years in the making.
No. These are two different things.
Okay.
These are two different things.
I got you.
So they just happen to be related in my opinion, because they both revolve around 9/11. So there are two 9/11 topics that I would like to touch on. One being the extension for now going into the 16th year of our national state of emergency in regards to 9/11. And what I would want to talk about there is, it's been 15 years. Does anyone feel safer? Have any of these measures gone to the level to protect us? And if not, why the hell are we still... I mean, we don't have any control over this. This is an executive order that every president can just continue to keep signing if they want. The state of emergency only lasts for a year, but in the bill, it's unlimited the number of times that it can be extended. So, you could have grandchildren or children right now who have been born under this state of emergency who very well may live throughout their entire life in a state of emergency. And I think that's something that we should bring up, something that we should talk about going into the future, going forward into hopefully tomorrow's episode.
Yeah.
And the other thing was, yes, this justice against, what's the S? I can't remember. Supporters of Terrorists Act, which was passed 100% in Congress, and then it was announced shortly after that the president was going to veto it. And so...
Sponsors of terrorism.
Sponsors, that's what it was. Justice Against Sponsors of Terrorism Act, the JASTA bill. And this was passed with 100% in Congress and is now being vetoed by the president. And a lot of people are sitting here thinking, well, oh man, what's up with, and the reason that was cited was that if we do this, then other countries can come back and sue us for stuff. And could you imagine, knowing some of the things that we know and we research, like those, the other thing is, you brought up this point, I believe, on Twitter, like, how do you make these people pay? I mean, we don't have some sort of international
I couldn't
court.
remember if I had talked about that or just thought about it.
No, that was a little tweet battle.
Yeah, because frankly, that's the ramifications I want to know is, how do you enforce this? Fucking let them sue. We're not going to invade. We should talk about it. I think
we really need to, because I think the issue here is they don't want any more investigations to be opened here. And what I truly believe, and I want to say it on air, I'll mention that we'll talk at length about this tomorrow, but I do want to say that I do not believe that Congress will gather the 2/3 votes needed to overturn this veto.
Even though they passed it at 100%. Okay,
even though they passed it at 100%, because if you were sitting there as a voter or as someone member of Congress who knew, and you've got an election coming up, and you know this is what the people want, but you also know that there's no damn way in hell it's going to happen, you can go ahead and vote yes that first time. It's going to get vetoed, and then you can just, you have
kind of passing the buck like we
yeah.
were talking about with the marijuana legalization in Ohio. I'm going to pass this down the road. It's not negative or positive publicity to me.
And when it comes up later, at the very least, I can say, well, look, hey, I voted for this. I wanted this, but we had to come together. We have compromises we have to make this political machine work, blah, 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 more bullshit. And so that's what I think is going to happen. I don't think the people are going to get what they want. But there's part of me that isn't, as much as I would love to see the real culprits of 9/11 put to justice, we could actually find out, we could actually know exactly what happened. The only thing about this, the only way I see you enforcing this JASTA bill is if you have some sort of international overseeing, all-encompassing court. You know what I mean? Like, how do you have the people of the United States versus the government of Saudi Arabia unless there is some worldwide governing body?
Well, yeah, and they do enforce those courts. I mean, they have the Hague, and they have several, like, I guess you would call them local courts, but they're local for multiple countries. So there is those kind of court processes. That's actually the money we gave Iran was money that one of those courts had said that, we owed Iran, and we could have kept appealing it. But that $300 million that we were talking about, that just happened to get dropped off, that's an example of one of those courts at work, and money owed. But how do you make a country that doesn't give a fuck, do that kind of shit, other than we take some Saudi hostages like the Iran did with our Marines that shouldn't have been in their waters to begin with, don't get me wrong, but is that what we're going to have to do? Then why don't we just start with the hostages? Why do we need, you know what I mean? It's stupid. And it'd be cool to get the investigation open. I like that kind of aspect to it. I don't know what organization is going to better investigate this that doesn't already want to investigate it, and what paths would be opened by a lawsuit that aren't already open, and what doors would get unlocked by it being a lawsuit. Because you would still have to hire a private attorney. It wouldn't be like this person would have top secret clearances and shit like that because they're an attorney. You used to have to use the Freedom of Information Act to get all your information.
And we all know how well
it's going to be redacted. Yeah, if after the 6 years it takes you and the multiple requests to get all the information, because you just keep guessing that more exists, and hell, they keep finding it somehow. It's crazy. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
It just all seems so obscene to me, or absurd, I should say. Saudi Arabia in general is pretty obscene. But yeah, no, I definitely look forward to talking about that a little bit there. Definitely looking forward to talking, because the North Korea had those nuclear tests, so they're popping up in the news. I would love some comments from the people that are tuning in. We had just around 40 views or whatever last week. I'd love for a few people to tell us some shit they wanted to talk about. If they think I'm full of shit, I'd love to hear it. Some interaction would be kind of cool. Not only that is a way that you can help support the show without supporting the show, because YouTube looks at that. And we are a growing network, and we would appreciate you guys helping us out as much as you can through that kind of stuff.
We don't want your money. We just want your thoughts.
I want your money too. No. Did you have anything else you want to talk about tonight, other than just giving them a good old cock tease about what's coming tomorrow?
No, that's really all. I'm just going the tip for now, because I am really excited to have another episode of this tomorrow. I really want to talk about this JASTA thing. And one other thing I want to mention about that for the people to sleep on and think about. I will come back with some numbers on this, but let's all keep in mind the idea that 9/11 has been a blank check for our American government to do what it pleases, what it pleases, when it pleases. All you have to do is say the word terrorism and say, "Oh, you're terrorism, 9/11. This is why we have to do this." I wouldn't be surprised to see at some point it somehow applied to North Korea. We can tie that stuff all in tomorrow, but
yeah,
always do your own research. Don't take our word for it. And if you listen tonight, you plan on coming back tomorrow, look up some of these topics that we're talking about, so you'll know whether or not we're blowing smoke up your ass.
Right? Yeah, we'd love to see you in the live chat talking to us. It is funny how 9/11 and the towers fell into that subject. It just will not fucking die for him. It will not. Every year I see more new evidence come out against, and more architects and more things like that come against the official story.
We need to investigate Building 6. I didn't even know about that until last week.
Holy shit.
Yep.
Oh my God.
Yep.
So this is RJ that's on 60 Grit Radio. Check us out on the blog at www.baddinnerguest.blogspot.com. At Bad Dinner Guest, at 60 Grit Radio on Twitter. Give us a like on Facebook at those same handles. Thanks again, guys.